2 raging book nerds, 14 years of friendship, and 1 burning question.
If Katniss Everdeen posted on Reddit, would she be the arsehole?
Welcome to Once Upon a Red Flag. This season, we're stepping into Panem, where every tribute, tyrant, and mentor gets their day in the Am I the Asshole courtroom.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Rachel.
And join us while we read between the red flags and break down the Hunger Games, one questionable decision at a time. Welcome back, everybody, to Once Upon a Red Flag, episode 10. I can't believe this is our 10th episode. That's wild. Because this was just like a thought in our brain in, 2024? And now it's episode 10. That's wild.
I keep thinking back to this time last year when we were now just going, a podcast would be cool. Like,
yeah, a podcast would be cool.
What would we do? Like, what kind of podcast would we have? And now a year later, we have a fully fleshed out idea where we are probably spilling too much of our internal thoughts on the internet.
Yeah. Talking of internal thoughts, so we have a small spoiler alert for this episode. So Gale is a giant walking red flag. I think we can just preface this by saying that. So along a similar vein, today's question, Rachel, is, what's the biggest red flag you have experienced in dating? I have quite a lot.
Okay.
So you talk and have a think.
I guess we can all agree, like, ghosting's like one of the biggest ones.
It's so horrible. So mean.
But I had a dude who kind of like pre-warned me he was going to ghost me.
Interesting.
For a number of weeks. Without actually confirming that. Mm-hmm. So he just busy, life cropped up and he was like, look, I'm going to be busy for a while. I won't talk much. Okay. The word much was uttered here. And then he took that to mean that he would not speak to me for all of about a month solid. And then wants to pop back up as if nothing had ever happened. Bearing in mind that I had messaged him during this period multiple times over and had got nothing in response. But I could still see his Snapchat, So I knew what the dude was up to. And I just wasn't high on his priorities list. And then he just sort of decided that, you know what, it's been a month now, like, whatever was making him busy had, like, passed over. And he was going to just creep back in like nothing had happened. I may have gone to town on him. I may have sort of just gone and listed all the things that he pissed me off with. Okay. And then I left him on ghosted for a couple of hours while I went to the movies.
Well, I think a couple of hours is nothing compared to like a month, and you're at the movies. Like,
I was at the movies. I don't think I told him I was going into movies. I think I just like laid out to him that, dude, you've had a solid month. You were not telling me you were that busy for the entire month that you could not even message me back saying good morning. Yeah. Like, 2 words while you have your morning shit. Like, come on, dude. You're scrolling on your phone on the toilet. You could have messaged me.
Oh, God. Yeah.
But no. No.
When it comes to biggest red flag in dating, I've been doing a lot of stuff at the minute, like working on myself, looking at like healthy dating. It's just good at this period of my life to be doing a lot of self-work. And there was something someone said, I think it was on Instagram, and it was like, you need to be with someone who will see your butt. And I was like, okay. What did it mean? Like,
what does that mean?
This? Yeah. And so I kind of had a read of it. I think it was like an article. And they said basically, if you're like at your kitchen window and you're doing the washing up and you see some cute birds outside and you're like, oh, come and see these birds. And your partner doesn't come to see them, or whatever, or the person you're dating doesn't come to see them, is a bit of a red flag. Because it's like, if you have a hobby you really like, or a book you really like, or something that basically makes you really happy, and you want to share it with the person that you're dating, and they're not really bothered about coming to see it, and like they just don't really show any interest in something that you're like excited about, then that's a major red flag. And I was like,
I can see that.
Yeah. It's like, that's interesting. I feel like if you're dating someone or whatever, they should be excited about the things that make you happy, or the things that you're excited about. And I was like, interesting. So it's like, it's something I've been ruminating on But that was one of like the red flag things, and I think I'm gonna look out for that a lot more.
Because it's like it's very different than like, I'm busy, just give me a second, come talk to me about it later. It's very much a, I'm not interested, I don't want to do that, why do you care about it? And yeah, I think I've experienced a bit of that. A bit of, I guess, selfishness from another partner who kind of expects you to be interested in what their things and to give a damn about their hobbies and things, but don't really want to share any of yours. I can't be with someone who is like that though, because I am the kind of neurospicy who walks down the street and goes, "Kitty!" when I see a cute cat. And I have to stop and admire the cat. And so I couldn't be with a person who starts pulling me along away from the cat. I couldn't. No, I need to share the joy of this cat with you.
Yeah.
That sounds like a euphemism. It's not.
I feel like I kind of need to preface this by saying I haven't really had that problem in the past with people that I've dated, but it is definitely something I'm like honing in on and going to kind of be like focusing on moving forward, because I do get it. And I feel like it covers so many areas of your life. It's obviously not just hobbies, it's family, it's friends,
it'd be home life as well, in terms of like whether you're trying out a new recipe and that person is enthusiastic even though you made it like a 3-star recipe and it's not as good as you could have made it, but if they're still like, yeah, this is not your best, as opposed to, you know, you try really, really well, I'm happy you made this for me. Big difference there, isn't there?
Yeah. So moving on from our red flag discussion
into this red flag.
Yeah, this giant red flag discussion, but it's fictional, so it's fine.
It's fine.
Our poster this week is Alpha Minor 123. Oh, what a typical boys username.
Yeah, so before we get into this post, we do have like a small episode disclaimer, because there is so much that we could actually say about Gale. If you have any thoughts that we haven't mentioned, that you think we haven't mentioned, like, stay tuned, because we are brewing a full Gale and Peeta, Gale versus Peeta episode towards the end of the season, where we're going to examine whether Katniss made the right choice.
The answer is yes, she did. But now into this post. Okay, am I the arsehole for being butthurt that a girl doesn't like me like that? Alpha Minor 123. Classic name. So I, 18 male, have known this girl for a while. We've been best friends for years. We've hunted together, fed each other's families, and we always trusted each other with our lives. We always acted like we were a team. It was me and her against the world. At least I thought it was. I thought we understood each other in a way that no one else around us ever could. She left the town for the big televised death match last year.
Okay.
I was devastated. A few months prior to this, I had started thinking that maybe we could end up being more than just best friends. Maybe we could be a couple. I never mentioned it to her, though. Helpful. For the longest time, we have been more worried about survival, neither of us really having the luxury of thinking about feelings. But in time, I thought it would get easier, since we were both getting older and our options would finally be able to expand. I'd be able to go to work, and that would put us in a different position than what we were used to. But she left before I could work up the courage to say anything. When she went into the arena, I had to watch her risk her life every day for weeks. And to make matters worse, I had to watch her cozy up to another guy, kissing him right in front of me. And I couldn't look away. Watching them televise the Hunger Games is mandatory. It's part of the horror. Now, instead of just seeing people get killed for the Capitol's agenda, I was having my heart ripped out every time they showed her and him on screen. And they showed them on screen a lot. When she came back, she claimed it was all a strategy, a stunt for the camera and the people in the Capitol to get sponsors, which is also what a lot of the people in town were telling me too. She'd never even talked to this guy before, so how could she be in love with him only after a few weeks? But on her final day in the arena, I watched her almost kill herself in an attempt to save this guy. So when she came back, things felt different between us and between them. I know logically she doesn't owe me anything. I didn't tell her how I was feeling before she left, and when I knew she was going into the arena, I kept it quiet. She never promised me anything, but I can't help feeling angry and hurt, betrayed even. I have since told her how I feel, and she didn't really say anything. Now I can't stop myself from being snarky with her, but with the way she's been acting, I kind of feel like she deserves it. She came to me with a plan to run away before things got worse here, which is an idea I brought to her months ago, before she even went into the arena and started this supposedly fake romance. But she wants to invite him to come along with us, and their mentor from the arena too. It's not her and I with our families. She's brought him into our plan, our lives, and now he is everywhere that I look. I simply cannot get on board with this new order of things, but I cannot leave her alone either. I just want everything between us to go back to the way it was before. Am I the arsehole?
Yes.
Yes. Well, we can't
say episode here, guys.
We can't
Thanks for joining us.
We can't say that yet. We have like our whole discussion we need to get through, Rachel. So shall we jump
well,
in?
the answer's yes, but let's figure out why it's yes.
Okay, Rachel, what are our thoughts on this?
So, let's start by saying that Gale is an asshole in so many ways that it's kind of difficult to know where to start with this. But, okay, let's go back to the very beginning and work our way forward from there. So we're dealing with Catching Fire right now. So right from the start of Catching Fire, Katniss is talking about how she can afford to buy meat from the butchers rather than having to hunt for fresh game now. But Gale's family is still dependent on hunting. And as I was reading through this section, I remembered how, like, the head peacekeeper Romulus Strab was going to appear, and obviously he stops people from being able to duck under the fence, like, head into the woods in the first place. And I wondered if this was going to play into, like, Gale's desire for rebellion, because there would then be zero way to feed his family, since even though, like, he works now, like, we've established one income isn't really enough to feed the size of the family that he has, and that's just him, his mum, and his two brothers and his sister. We're not even talking about if he wants to settle down now he is 18 and might want to have his own kids at some point. We've not even discussed that. But then that kind of led me to the question of, well, in the same way that Katniss loses the benefits for her family if she dies, are there other restrictions on Katniss? Like, is she not able to share, like, her wealth with him and buy him meat and things? Is Gale not allowed to take money or meat from her? And so at this point, I'm still kind of, like, giving him the benefit of the doubt. And then a page or two later, our girl Katniss corrects me. Dickhead Gale is just too proud.
Yeah, because obviously we have that scene where they've gone kind of out to that building in the woods, and like Gale obviously is not taking any of like the nice gloves to keep himself warm, or obviously the food from Katniss, or like the hunting gear that she gets him. And Katniss obviously went to the arena. She killed people. Right, she killed people to come back to get these so-called luxuries, which honestly is just stuff that Gale really needs. And the least he could do is take her gifts. Like, she wants to try and support Gale and his family, so none of the kids have to take more Tesserae, so they don't get ill, so they can eat, which is like the bare minimum. And Gale, she's not going to be able to have those nice things, right, without the support from Katniss. And I guess it's her way of trying to do some good with the things that she now has from literally having to murder other children. And he's like, nah, I'm good. I don't want it. It's from the capital. She's like, then why did I do everything that I just did? What was the point?
Yeah, like, she's gone through such a hardship. Like, she's gone through such trauma and having, I say been reaped, because I don't really see her volunteering as being a conscious choice. I still think Katniss was reaped, just in a different way, because what else was she going to do? But trying to make some good out of that, and he just doesn't want to accept it. And Gale doesn't even like Katniss working to bring him the meat. Like, so even if he doesn't want to take butcher meat from her and, like, her actual, like, wealth, he also then complains when she, or at least sort of begrudgingly accepts when she's been out hunting for the things that they would usually do together, because he's now at work in the mines. He can't go out hunting as often. So she takes over that responsibility, hunting to provide food for Gale's family.
Yeah.
It doesn't even like that. Like, she has nothing left to do with her leisure time. Like, she's meant to be designing a fashion line, but girl has zero interest in that.
Oh yeah, Cinna's doing all that.
Like, her life has kind of been devoted to survival up to this point. She can't just live a life of leisure. She wants to hunt. She likes to hunt. Like, it's probably the one thing keeping her in control right now.
Yeah.
Because Katniss caged is never going to be a good thing. And he can't even, like, thank her for that or even see that he's doing her some sort of, like, he's doing her a solid by, like, accepting that because he's given her a purpose. She has the time to do it. But he's still, like, this dude's ego won't accept a fucking penny off of Katniss. Even though if it was the other way around, he would have provided for her family. He won't accept money. He won't accept meat. He won't accept hunting. If she had died in the arena, he would have taken on Katniss' sister and her mother easily and sort of gone, you know what, I'll make it work. But
would he,
would have got to be alpha male.
He obviously would have ended up in the mines as has happened. He would be working his crazy shifts. He would only have Sundays. Like, would he have even really managed that anyway, taking on?
I think he would have tried. I think he would have, because I do think a lot of this comes back. I called him Alpha Minor for a reason.
Alpha Minor.
I think he would have at least attempted it or stepped up, or he would be, because he's good at setting snares, right? That's kind of his thing. He's less bow and arrow and more snares. So I think he just set up more snares, and the snares then do the work for him. How old are his brothers at this point? Would he be teaching them how to?
Well, like, obviously when Katniss goes round and talks to Gale's mom, and she's like, oh, I think I'll try and get, I think it's the second eldest out into the woods to do some hunting. And the girl's mum is like, oh yeah, that'd be good because he never has the time and he saves his Sundays for you. So I guess
he's been meaning to do it as well. I think she says like Gale's been meaning to do that. So like, he could have.
Gale is honestly such a douche and literally makes Katniss feel so bad for having things now. Like, things which she got obviously from killing people in the arena. And it's like, Gale, did you want her to come home or not?
Yeah.
Like, you said you wanted her to come home. She's now come home. She's obviously slightly changed because that's what happens. And now he's like throwing a hissy fit. Like, you were the one saying things like, you know, you're a good hunter and that hunting the kids won't be much different, which is obviously just a whole like gross situation when she was being sent off to the games. And what? Now she's back and now you're butthurt because she doesn't want to fling herself at you and you're now deciding to make her feel awful for what she did to stay alive on your advice? Come on, Gale.
I kind of think, like, would this be the case if Katniss hadn't gotten herself involved with Peeta? Like, Gale's mother takes no issue with Katniss being a provider. It's just Gale. Katniss distributes her newfound wealth to people in the Hob as well. Like, she takes bits and bats from their kitchen cupboards, and her mum's in on it. Her mum knows the whole time. And she just goes and like distributes things that'll go a little bit unnoticed by the Peacekeepers. So it's not like she's defying the Capitol all that much. These guys just don't care that they're thankful for it. It's just Gale who's bothered. Like, she needed to win the games and she needed to survive to come home to him. But it seems to be like only under certain unspoken conditions that she is allowed to do that. Like, what do you make of the fact that when she comes home from the Victor's Tour, because the final part of the Victor's Tour is in your home district, right?
Yeah.
And so that means that they ended it in District 12 this time. And it's a smaller affair than everywhere else. Just a dinner at the mayor's house to celebrate the Harvest Festival. But he doesn't even go. His entire family turns up.
Yeah.
But he fakes illness to stay home. Now, we know that on this Victor's Tour, right, like, they have gotten engaged. Katniss and Peeta have gotten engaged.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. But he's supposed to be, like, aware that it's not real still at this point. Like, she hasn't come out and told him the full extent of it. But this is the guy who rails against the Capitol constantly. Like, you never find him not spouting rebellious ideas. And yet, for some reason, he just can't quite believe the Capitol is behind this. He can't quite give her the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
To the point where what is effectively now the nation recognizes him to be her cousin.
Yeah.
Right?
All the district had to do that. Yeah.
All of District 12 knows the truth.
Well, actually, you say that, but Katniss does say that apparently some people who have known us for a really, really long time have forgotten. Like she says at the start of the book where they're in the Hob and she's with, I think it's with Darius and Greasy say. And Gracie say like, oh yeah, that cousin of yours, like that are joking about it because obviously she knows that they're not cousins. But Katniss does then remark, even though some people seem to have forgotten that we aren't cousins.
But then I also guess that I know there are people who will call like close family friends cousins. Like how many times have you had like mom's best friend or someone close to dad who becomes like an aunt or uncle when they're not actually biologically? Kind of.
That, yeah.
So like I guess like it's part of it could even be seen as like not a blood tie and a blood cousin, but like you are that close as families because she is close to his mum, she's close to his brothers, like their families communicate. It could be basically like that kind of idea. So even if they're not biological cousins in that sense, it might be that the rest of the district sort of just goes, okay, I can see that. I could see because nothing's happening between them.
Yeah, and they obviously do look similar, right? They have that same look, the dark straight hair and that kind of thing. And they obviously go off every weekend together, and then obviously come back with like bags loaded with game and all that kind of thing. Like,
they're not going off to the woods to make out, are they?
No, like they know
coming back with a haul.
Yeah, like they know they've gone out for a reason. So I guess some people might have got slightly confused, or I don't know, but
it just doesn't turn up. It just doesn't go.
I know.
He snubs her.
I know in the book when she's like, but Gale fakes illness to stay home. So for a start, Katniss knows he's like faking it, right? He doesn't want to show up because whether he would have showed up if she hadn't got engaged, I don't think he would have done anyway. I think he would have still faked illness to stay at home. I think it's just an extra reason for him to stay at home because they got engaged. And I think I can see this in two separate ways, right? So I see it in essence of, it all depends whether you think Gale actually truly does love her or not. But that's a separate conversation.
Conversation.
Like, if he thinks he does, and that's happened, he's obviously going to be sad. He's going to be heartbroken. But at the same time, Katniss is like his best friend. This victory tour is like a big thing. It's going to be monitored. Wouldn't you want to maybe just not cause trouble in that essence, because she expressed to him, right, that she's worried that Snow's gonna have like him and everyone killed. Is that before that or after that? I can't remember.
I think it's after this order. But like this brings me back to the point of you call the capital all the names under the sun, and yet you can't look past your jealousy to figure out that this is a potential. Really, like I don't think Gale is without brain cells. I don't think that. Well, maybe. But we know he has brain cells, just sometimes they're not used for the best things. Yeah, and I think he lets this jealousy cloud far too much. And I think ultimately that's like his downfall in Katniss's eyes, is that he's a jealous little bitch and he can't see past that.
I think he is probably more complex than we give him credit for. But I do think he has, unlike our boy Peeta, sunk into this toxic masculinity, right? He does kind of,
100%.
and I think if you are listening to this and you haven't read the books, half this season probably won't make sense to you. But I do think the film makes him out a lot better than the books do, because I was rewatching the film and they do make him more compassionate in a sense than what the book does.
I guess a bit more of an actual definitive love rival. I think the Hunger Games came out after Twilight as movies, right? I've got the order of that correct. So you did have like a very, very big Team Jacob versus Team Edward like marketing hype with Twilight. So I can see how making the Hunger Games movies you would kind of want to buy into that a little bit more as well, because I think if you did portray Gale as exactly who he is in the books, there is no competition between Gale and Peeta. The only reason that Katniss debates between the two of them is it's a who she thinks she should be with, that like as old Katniss pre-Hunger Games, versus who she thinks she has to be with because the Capitol is telling her she has to post-Hunger Games, and where does her heart really lie between the two? That's the debate here. The draw of Gale is not his personality.
No.
It's the history they share.
Yeah,
and you can't fit all that into a 2-hour film.
Yeah, I was watching it because I was rewatching the film as well while doing all the prep for this episode, because I, have it in the background, like background noise. And they leave so much stuff out. I got really annoyed, and they leave out kind of his discussion where he's not going to take the gloves, and says he doesn't want anything made in the Capitol, and the conversation he has with Katniss when she wants to run away. And I know we're going to probably speak about that a little bit more, but they leave out a lot of his agitation, his frustration, his kind of pettiness towards Peeta and towards Haymitch. And I was watching it and I was like, well, no wonder some people are Team Gale, especially if you haven't read the book, because they haven't got the essence of just, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, isness of him. Does that make sense? It's not even a word, but do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I think, when you adapt books to movies, they often get compared a lot, and people often either will watch one, usually the movie they'll watch, and then sort of think they know the entire story, whereas you're adapting a text that has completely different narrative conventions, different methods of putting across the same information. As someone who needs to fully immerse in a story, I prefer to read a book and then watch the film, because I can't see the wood for the trees unless I'm watching like a really simple movie. Say I'm watching like Lord of the Rings, I am getting so lost because I'm too busy.
I thought you thought Lord of the Rings was a simple movie there for a second.
No, it's not. But I know people who love them, having only seen the movies, and I can't do that because I am so lost in everything that's going on screen and wanting to ask all the questions and know why is that there and what does that mean and what's the significance. And I have like 2 seconds to grasp that in on screen, and I can't. So I enjoy The Hobbit. Now I've read The Hobbit, because now I know the moments, but you still spend time going, well, that was different, and that was different, and that was different. And you are effectively getting two different versions of the same story. You can't put like a 8-hour to 10-hour long book reading into a 2-hour film and expect to get the same out of it and expect to get the same depth of character than you did in 8 hours. They're two different things. But that's why a lot of confusion comes up, I think, with the Team Gale girlies, because they're like, but like, look at him, and that's who she wanted to be with originally, and all this stuff. And
but she didn't.
That's who she should have been. Was she didn't want to be with anyone, like, really.
In the books, she didn't want to be with anybody. She didn't want to get married. She didn't want to have kids. She didn't even look at Gale in a romantic sense until he gets whipped. Also, that's going to be something we're going to speak about.
But he just kind of tries to force her to look at him in that way, which is
all very questionable. Okay, and then we get into this makes me feel so uncomfortable to say, we get into the kissing. Okay, I know. I feel wrong saying that. Right.
It's just weird. That's why none of it's romantic in the slightest.
So we know Gale is possessive and uses Katniss, and we know he kind of manipulates her into kissing him. And this is the bit that makes me feel really gross and kind of unsettled inside. So he literally says, "I knew you would kiss me because I was in pain. That's the only way I can get your attention." And I think this is technically in Mockingjay, but it does kind of relate back to Catching Fire.
It's a similar concept to when he's been whipped and he's on the table, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a similar concept that he starts to understand that Katniss will kiss him if he's in pain or if he's sad. And I think he didn't get whipped on purpose, but it is this whole thing of where like Katniss only does it when he's like,
it's a pity kiss.
Yeah, it's a pity kiss. And like, excuse me, like what on earth? It's just so toxic. It's like a classic narcissistic move where it's like, I'm going to act all sad and like the victim because I know I'll get something from it. And which in this instance is obviously a kiss, which is also so dodgy, right? Because at this point he's 18 and Katniss, I think, is still 16. I don't think she's turned 17 yet. And like Katniss kind of,
you're right.
Yeah, kisses Gale out of desperation, but even herself at the time in the book, like she says that she realizes it probably isn't love. So it's like, it's all getting very messy or very confusing because she's kissing him, but she's kissing him because Gale is like sad or in pain or not doing good. So the Gale thinks, oh, okay. And then Katniss is like, oh wait, no, but I kissed him, but that wasn't out of love. That was something else. And it all gets very confusing.
It's going to get very confusing for her because you're kissing him out of misplaced guilt that he's making you feel, having like you've never promised him anything, but yet somehow you're in the wrong in his eyes, is making that be a thing. But then you also then get the guilt that she must feel for having kissed him and not felt anything, but then she's kissed him, so now she'll think she's leading him on, which kind of puts like two people in the same boat as Peeta is, only Peeta understands when she's like, I can't deal with this. He's like, no, that's fair. Like, I'm sorry I should have put you in this position. Whereas Gale's like, you kissed me. That must mean something. Why are you still doing this? Like, what? But
yeah,
she's, if you go back to their first kiss, she isn't even an active participant in it.
Which
and that
so
makes
weird.
it even weirder.
Yeah.
It makes it even more uncomfortable.
So uncomfy.
Because he stops her after like one of their hunting trips. I think it's like the first time they go back into the woods.
Yeah.
Since she's been home and all the fanfare's died down. And like he stops her after the trip as they're going back into the district. And he stops her, he kisses her, and then says something like, I had to do that just once. And then he walks off.
It's so weird.
And leaves.
It's so weird. Like he's kissed her, said I got to do that once. Obviously not checking with her that it was okay first, and then just walks off, and then doesn't mention it again, doesn't talk about it again, and the next time that she sees him, he just doesn't bring it up.
Nope.
It's like not really weird
ever again. But
so
then
weird.
Can I also point out the fact that the words that he says, I had to do that just once, kind of implies that he doesn't expect it ever again, which we all know is an absolute fucking lie.
It actually brings it up. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know you can argue that, like, Peeta did something similar, because obviously he has to, like, confess that he likes her, and then that becomes a whole thing. But, like, he does all of this, like, manipulation kissing, not to manipulate Katniss, but to manipulate the Capitol. And it does, like, keep her alive. It's a weapon in their arsenal to survive the Hunger Games, right? Which is a damn good reason, if you ask me. But Gale just kind of wants to, like, selfishly force his feelings onto Katniss that he has never voiced before someone was interested in her.
Yeah.
Like, she's just survived a death match and a media frenzy, which cannot have been easy to go through. You want to add even more to her plate with this by forcing your feelings on her in the most confusing way possible. Like, and he must know what she wants, right? Because Katniss decided a long, long time ago that she would never be with anyone and would never have kids.
Yeah.
So surely her and Gale have had this discussion before. Like, on one of their hunting trips, like, while they were feeding their families, she must have mentioned, like, just even an offhand comment of, and this is exactly why I am never having kids. Feeding the three of us is, like, hard enough, or whatever. Like, feeding the three of us is hard enough. I never want to see my own kids in the reaping either. Like, that's...
Yeah.
That has to have been brought up. And so now, part of me wonders, like, if he knows this, why is he pushing so hard? I don't know what to think here. Because is he now only interested because some of that reasoning has been taken away? I don't believe he was genuinely interested in a relationship beforehand. So is he now only interested because she's the pretty capital thing and he's seen someone else play with his toy? Or
terrible.
Or, like, is he interested? I'll talk about that more later. But is he also interested because some of that reasoning of hers has been taken away. She struggles to feed the family that she's got. Well, now she can. Even if, like, Gale would be to provide for Katniss, and Katniss provides for her mum and her sister and whoever else her sister wants to be with when they grow up. Like, some of that reasoning, some of that hardship has been taken away from at least one of them. She has enough food now to feed the kids, and is he going to try and talk her into the reaping not being all that bad? Like, they can have kids, it's only 6 years of their lives, and then everything's hunky-dory. Well, you didn't get reaped, you volunteered, so that's a different thing. Like, why can I see him doing that? And why can I see his reasoning being so confusing as, I won't take anything off Katniss from hunting until she's mine, and then that's fair. Then we're married and we're the same family, and it is valid. I feel
like, yeah, it's very hard, obviously, to get inside of his head, because I feel like he admits that he started to develop some sort of feelings for her 6 months before she went in, and then obviously wasn't 100% sure she was going to come back, and then she has come back, and she's come back with Peeta, and he's not dumb. We know he's smart. Like, he must know that, like, they're gonna have to basically be in that relationship, whatever you want to call it, for like the rest of their lives, right, to keep people safe. So I don't really know why. Like, we know he has other girls, he has other options,
he has hangers on.
Yeah. I don't know if he's just I don't know if his brain's so just confused and conflicted, but the way he goes about trying to tell Katniss his feelings is just not on. And yeah, it doesn't make him look good, does it? It doesn't put him in a good light.
I was about to say, like, are we being too harsh? Because at the end of the day, this guy is a teenager. He's 18. Like, I have dated people at that age. Their brains aren't fully formed yet. Definitely guys' brains are not fully formed yet. They don't know what they're doing. But at the same time, Peter's younger. So I think I've kind of refuted my own point there. Like, I think Peeta has a decent role model in his dad. Though why his dad puts up with his mother, I'll never know. And obviously Gale's role model did die. But then Gale's 2 years older than Katniss. And if Katniss was 11, then that means Gale was 13. And 13 years is probably enough to have a lot of, I guess, role model qualities be passed down. And I don't think that Hazel, with the family that she's got and how just genuinely, like, nice Hazel is, I don't think she'd be with someone who was openly cruel or anything. Or so, like, where has Gale got this behaviour from?
Toxic masculinity.
It's everywhere. Even in Panem, you cannot escape the toxic masculinity.
I honestly think that's just it. I think that's just his internal core. And I think he probably did have good intentions. Just the way he goes about things is just not. It's just not good.
Are his intentions in the right place though? Because it just seems to me like entitlement. Like, I saw her first, she's mine. It's just the vibe I'm getting. It's just picking up what Suzanne Collins is putting down there.
I see it from both perspectives. I see it from, he might actually believe he is in love with Katniss and has these feelings for Katniss.
Believes it, but not actually is.
Yeah, whether we think that's actually love or not is like a completely different conversation. But somebody can obviously be convinced that they're in love with someone else, and then once the fog goes, that obviously changes. I think he might honestly believe he is in love with her, but I think obviously by the end of the games, and he's in District 2 and he's got his job, he probably moves on quite quick. I feel like he's in that District 12 haziness of
that mentality.
Probably, turning 18, going down into mines, like you said, probably wanting to settle down. And he's like, Katniss, she's a good choice, even though there's many reasons why she's not now. But he's like latched onto that, and the way he goes about it is not good.
Not good. That puts it a bit mildly. Let's move on to what is probably the meatiest section of Gale's toxic personality.
Okay.
that is the scene that we've already mentioned in the lake cabin, when Katniss is sort of confessing everything to him that Snow has sort of threatened her with, and the position that they are in now. Because the threats from Snow, like how, because they used to be star-crossed lovers, like how that excuse to save them both means that they're pretty much bound together forever now. Like, no matter what she thinks about it or what her choice would be, she is stuck. And so she opens up to Gale and she confesses basically everything that has happened. And at this point, he is totally down to run away with Katniss when she first suggests it. Yep. The second that she says to him, I think we should go, he is fully 100% on board. Because he thinks it's some romantic little escape for the two of them. Like, the second that she tries to save Peeta's life as well, even though she has literally just detailed all the ways in which their arrangement is fake, he doesn't want to go anymore.
Yeah, that's what really annoys me. So he's really happy at first, like almost pick her up and twirl her around happy. Like, he's the one who's obviously been suggesting this for years, but that happiness and supportiveness all of a sudden just switches off. And it's quite scary how quickly it happens, really. Like, his comment on, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realise our party would be so big. Like, she mentions that it will be so hard to convince Haymitch and to go, and then subsequently Peeta. He switches into the mode of, actually, I don't want to go I don't want to do that anymore. No, actually, no, I'm not fussed. He's like almost sulking and like, okay, whatever, you go and do whatever you want to do, but like, leave me out of it, is kind of his attitude. And it's just kind of like, dude, like, these people, like, are going to be tortured. And it's when Gale, like, pushes her and basically says, if she can't convince Peeta and Haymitch, etc., to come, what will she do? And Katniss says that she guesses she would have to leave them, right? And Gale says out of nowhere, would you leave me?
Oh, my God.
Dude, Haymitch and Peeta would for sure get tortured if Katniss and her family all of a sudden just disappeared into the woods. Like, they would pay for the fallout, and he just wants to leave them there. Like, come on, at least pretend to try and be a decent human being. But then it really just, like, that comment just really shows his pick-me boy colours by making it all about himself. I'm like, Gale, come on, at least try.
Yeah, like, dude would literally rather risk his life and the life of his entire family and the lives of other people that Katniss cares about because he doesn't get the girl. Dude, what the fuck? Dude, come on. Like, and she has explained to him why she can't get into all this romance stuff with him because the Capitol has threatened his family and her family and practically everyone they know and care about. And he still wants to leave when he thinks it's just their families going. But the second that he has Peeta as competition, he's out. Like, is he just distinctly aware that there is no competition between him and Peeta? Like, is that what this is? Is this a case of, well, I 100% know that if it's me versus him, it's going to be him, and therefore it can only be me, and I can be the only choice. And then there's the back and forth with those bloody gloves. Like, at first, he won't take them because he thinks they're Peeta's. And then he will take them because Katniss has confirmed that they're Sinners and not Peeta's. And then he won't take anything from her because dude is happiest spitting his dummy out.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what his mother would say if she knew?
She'd be so
genuinely
disappointed from the vibe that I get from her. And it is annoying, like you've just reminded me, like he says he will take it when it's Sinners from the Capitol. And then once he finds out that Katniss wants to run away with him, but also Peeta and Haymitch, that's when he's like, actually, no, I don't want it. And also like saying he doesn't want anything made in the Capitol. Like, it's so awful. Like, it's this passive aggressiveness which really gets to me. Like, Katniss, as I said, has like come back from the games different. Anyone would be different after what she went through. She is now in some sick way automatically become property of the Capitol, having to go back through each game and living in the Victor's village and all that kind of thing, having better clothes, more money and access to food. But he doesn't have to be so goddamn awful about it. Like, part of me wonders if he's jealous, almost jealous that he didn't get to go in, win, and come back with all the money and be able to provide for her, which I think is something you mentioned earlier. Like, is he hurt that a girl is trying to take care of him rather than the other way around? And then his ego is bruised even further when she doesn't want to run off with like just him and his family and her family. And set up a nice little family together. Like, dude, it's like he doesn't know Katniss properly at all.
Yeah, and set up a nice little family together in a makeshift hut in the woods with less than they currently have. They're already struggling on what they currently have. And yet you are totally happy to do that as long as she's the Katniss that you know and love from before the games. But the second that she has anything from the capital touch her, though I'd also argue that if anyone's made in the capital, that is everyone, because everyone is made to live under capital rule. What you have in life and who you are as a person is kind of controlled by the capital already. So I kind of feel like you're just being a spiteful little douchebag because you can.
And arguably those gloves probably weren't made in the capital. If we're going to look at it from that perspective.
They will have been made in a district.
They would have been made in what, District 8? That's the textile district?
Yeah.
So technically it's from there. So really it's District
not made in the capital.
So what is he complaining about?
I can totally imagine there being that guy in a bar who is like, women want alpha males. Women need to be cared for and provided for. Yeah, it's hot that she can handle a bow and arrow, but when she's mine, she won't need to do anything other than cook and take care of the children.
It's like he doesn't know Katniss at all.
It's the kind of vibe that I'm getting from him. It's kind of just this sick, toxic alpha maleness of like, man provide food, man provide shelter, woman provide children and hot sex.
Man make fire. Like that approach.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
And that works for some people, that works for some couples, that works for some families. Obviously, everyone has their right for choice. But in this aspect, when you're talking about Katniss, we know that's not what she wants.
Like, that's not to shame anyone, because I quite like those books. I couldn't live it personally, but I will read about fictional people who have one love interest who is a good guy, but will also like do everything. I like those ones. If that works for you, fantastic. It's not Katniss though, right?
No, it's not going to work for Katniss.
It's not going to work for this girl. She needs to be in control. She cannot rest unless she is, and it feels like Gale wants to take overall control for her, whereas Peeta would be, whatever you want, Katniss, I just want you to be happy. So like, going back to, is there a competition, and is Gale just actively aware that there isn't between the two of them? And I think a lot of the conflict between Gale and Katniss here comes down to trust, because he doesn't trust that it's all an act, and he's just a jealous little bitch, so he can lash out and he acts all petty. But even if you remove all of this Peeta stuff from the occasion, like, I still think he'd be a petty little bitch about Katniss not wanting a relationship with him in the first place. I think he'd want to be the kind of guy to try and talk her into being with him, even if that isn't what she wants.
That's so gross.
Like, I think she wants to be her own person, and I think Gale would try and talk her into trusting him to do everything, and trusting her to like give up the reins of her own life, and that's not what she's going to do. But we also haven't even mentioned about when Katniss let slip about the uprising in 8. So it's obviously at the Harvest Festival that he didn't turn up to. She was looking for Madge, or she'd pop into the mayor's office and say hi to her dad. And he wasn't there, and she saw a broadcast from 8 detailing, broadcast from the capital about 8's uprising and the shutdown of their manufacturing and stuff. Which also probably a reason to take the fucking gloves, Gale. You might not get another pair again.
I don't think there'll be many coming out soon. Yeah,
but she sort of let slip that 8 are already sort of in an uprising, and at that point, even running away isn't good enough for him, no matter who is going. Now he wants to fight. And this leads back to like Gale and the rebellion. How much of his will to rebel is now fueled by the fact that Katniss will never be his if the Capitol and Snow are in control. So she's said she wants to run away with Peeta, and now he doesn't want to go. But then she also then gives him another option to not run away, but still also get rid of her excuse to not be with him. And then he only agrees Katniss is right and that they should have run away rather than like do this rebellion plan. Once it's announced that she's going to go back into the games again. Like, now her life is on the line. He's down to run away again. So, like, he doesn't mind anyone else's lives being put at risk, apart from hers. Her life's on the line. Yeah. Fuck everyone. But if anyone else could die...
Yeah. Hadn't, like, seen it in that perspective until now, where it was like, oh, yeah, he wanted to go, and then he got like a win for the rebellion in 8 from Katniss, and then he's like, no, we got to fight. I didn't even see it from his perspective of he thinks if he fights and if they win, then Katniss will be like relieved of her kind of like control of the Capitol and won't have to marry Peeta and then could be with him. I didn't even see it from that perspective. Obviously, that goes downhill, whatever way you look at it, as we get into Mockingjay. And then when he learns that Katniss is going to go back into the games for the Court to Quell, he obviously turns back up at the house, doesn't he? And he's like, "You're right. Like, we should have gone." But then it's way too late, Gale. It's way too late.
Part of my thinking with this as well is that Katniss mentions to Haymitch the fact that they want to rebel, and Haymitch goes, "No, this district is not ready." And obviously, there's been a reason that up to this point, Gale hasn't rebelled. Like, even though he's talked about it for years and years, he hasn't done anything close to it at all up to this point. So that's the one driving factor that seems to change to make him commit to the plan. That's kind of like my biggest evidence that where he's coming from in terms of rebellion isn't from a good and moral place. It's from maybe a more self-serving kind of place instead. Because why now, Gale? Like, it's always been toxic. It's always been shit. You've always lived in hell. Why now? Why not when Katniss volunteered? Why not before that when you were struggling to feed everyone? Like, I know you're 18 now, I know you're old enough, but you've had enough chances before this to all of a sudden go, you know what, let's rebel, fuck it, we'll do it.
Even
now this is an issue.
Even when he says that, he, like, District 12 doesn't really rebel. Like, we know it's so small.
And he has to know that. He now works in the mines. He has to know what people are capable of. There's no, like, I guess, like, smokescreen pink tinted glasses over it, the rose tinted glasses over what people are capable of now. He's working in the mines with the strongest people in the district. It's not like, oh, he's never been down there, he doesn't know what it's like. He doesn't know, like, what the actual work is, what they're capable of. They've had class trips, they've done all that stuff. Like, he's now more fully aware of the situation before and knows how tough it would be. But now it's up for it.
Like, and he must have realised after the new head peacekeeper threat arrives, like, that was going to be so much harder to do. Like, the way they just kind of really clamp down control on the district with obviously the whipping posts, the curfews and shooting people on sight and all this, and people just kind of cower away. I don't think he really gets into his rebellion mindset until he does become a soldier in District 13, and obviously that is something we are going to speak about in our Mockingjay episodes after our mid-season break. But yeah, there's something not quite right about his mindset here. And I feel like I am kind of repeating myself in the essence where with Katniss, I was like, there's something not quite right with the way that he approaches stuff.
I think this is kind of the thing, though, is we're looking at books, we're tracking through all the different choices that kind of just reinforce this character, that reinforce this personality defect, I will call it, that he has. The politest way I could have put that, really, I think. That just reinforces, like, every choice that he makes. We're examining the number of ways that he could have changed as a person. and chose not.
Okay, so I do want to point out that it is me mainly talking about Gale from the perspective of the other love interest. Like, I'm not talking so much about his character as a rebel, as someone who is clearly been to his own hell and back, losing his dad and then struggling to feed a family and like kind of becoming the head of the household. But in many aspects, I feel like some behaviour stems from being obviously a product of his environment and a product of District 12 and Panem. And we will delve into that deeper in episodes to do with Mockingjay, because obviously we have to. But from the perspective of how he interacts with Katniss for the sake of this episode, let's be honest, guys, like, it's really not good.
Do you kind of want to like examine the ways that Gale, I guess, might be hurting right now as well? Because obviously, like, you basically said he doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? He has, he's a multifaceted individual. So, like, let's just play like Gale's devil's advocate for a little bit, because otherwise this is going to be a complete Gale bashing episode. Gale, we know, like, now has to work in the mines, and these mines are where his father was killed. So, like, that can't be easy. Like, Katniss talks about the annual class trips to tour the mines as being, like, part of their training. Also, what the fuck?
I know.
That. I know a lot of, like, other industries in different districts, like, get the kids involved from a younger age.
Yeah.
And obviously you have to wait till you're 18 to be in these mines. But I do feel like being in the mine is probably the worst possible, like, actual industry to be in. I think probably the most dangerous industry. And these are children.
I know.
When you have a history of mining disasters and you want to put them in a mine. Like, I love how, like, most of the horrors of these districts are like us just going back in time.
Basically.
But, like, Katniss made herself so sick with anxiety around these, like, yearly school trips that her mother kept her off school twice, like, just convinced that she'd actually got a serious illness. Not that she was anxious about going into the mines or that it would be emotionally hard for her. No, like, she was actually that physically ill every single time it was bound to happen that she didn't go. Her mum thought that she was actually physically sick. Like, how must it feel to be Gale right now, I guess, who is dealing with that on a daily basis? Like, assuming that he has the same sort of, I guess, trauma around this as Katniss does. But for that, in that vein, it's important to remember that Gale and Katniss have gone through the same thing with that.
Yeah.
Like, they lost their fathers in the exact same accident. Not a similar one, the exact same accident at the same time. Gale works in those mines now, which is obviously a torture in and of itself. Working there after your father died in them, sure. But then Katniss was also in the arena, which is in some ways a more concentrated kind of hell. Because, Gale's dad died in those mines. And he has to face the memory of his dad, like, every single day. Probably worry that the same accident might befall him as well. But the last mining incident that we know of was years previous, right? That was the last mining incident, is the one that took their dads. And that was, by this point, 6 years previous, at least on that scale, right? Katniss faces the memory of her dad every time she hunts. The memory of her father, like, kept her alive when she had a very, very real fear of dying every single day in the arena. Like, even if Gale doesn't want to recognize the similarities of the mines to the arena, it's not physically the same in terms of location, but in terms of fear and emotional trauma. Like, any decent human being should be able to recognize her past trauma, realize that now she has more of that because of her time in the arena, and give the girl some fucking grace. Dude, knock it off! Like, why is it so hard for some people to just recognize that they are in a shitty situation that is incredibly hard to navigate, and give someone just a little time and a little consideration, especially when you have intimate first-hand knowledge of their first trauma and you watch their second trauma live on TV. Like, it's not like you have no level of understanding here. I can play devil's advocate and say, oh, he has such a horrible time now because of what he's gone through. But she's gone through the same thing, and it isn't like he's not aware of that. He 100% is.
I think a lot of his behaviour could be excused if Katniss and Gale had actually been together, actually been in a relationship before she went into the games. Like, if that was the case, then Gale would have every right to be angry. He could still work on communicating it better, but it would make perfect sense. But I think it's the fact that as far as Katniss was aware, they were just friends, and therefore that makes his behaviour a bit more inexcusable. And even then, if he was behaving like that as a best friend and he didn't want her to get hurt, you could kind of understand. But then even then, as a best friend, he would be able to acknowledge the fact that Katniss, like I said, now has to do what she can to keep herself and her family alive, and that she has to obey certain rules and expectations now to do that. He wouldn't, if he was just the best friend, he wouldn't have a problem accepting that help from her either, and you would expect him to be grateful, but at no point does he display that.
And obviously we have a whole Peeta versus Gale episode brewing, so I'll save a lot of my lovely little comparisons of the two of them for then. But you've just brought up something very important here that I do want to sort of touch on now as well as later, because obviously we've already mentioned that Gale doesn't admit that he feels anything for Katniss until she is home, even though his feelings supposedly started before the reaping. Peeta takes the chance, regardless of whose idea it was, whether it was Peeta's or Haymitch's, and we've obviously had that discussion already, but regardless of whose idea that was, Peeta takes the chance to confess that he likes Katniss while he still has the chance to, right before they're about to go into what is most likely his death, if not hers. After she volunteers, Gale visits her before she goes into the arena. And at no point does the dude say anything. He had an opportunity and he didn't take it. And therefore, another guy got in there first. This was most likely his last, real chance to say anything to her. And we can all say, oh yeah, he told her to come home and all this stuff. But how much do we actually think he thought she could do that? Because it has to recognise that she was up against it being District 12. You have 6 careers going in there. 6 careers against one District 12 girl is piss poor odds, let alone adding in all the other contestants as well.
I think it kind of gives the impression of the odds were definitely not in her favour.
No, exactly. And if the odds aren't in her favour, why wouldn't you say something? And because of that, it is totally giving that kid in nursery who gets mad when someone else plays with that toy that he totally wanted to play with. Right at that second, he just didn't tell anyone that he wanted to play with that toy, and he'd never picked that toy up or touched it or even thought about that toy in all the months previous. But now someone else is playing with that toy. Now he's like, oh, no, that's mine. You can't have that. Oh, but you never wanted it until this point. It's just so possessive. Either you tell her you like her before someone else is interested, or you just stick with being her best friend until she's ready to figure things out. You gave up your advantage. You cannot now expect to get that advantage back.
I think the important thing is that Katniss has never viewed him as anything more. And Gale only told her that he had these feelings. And I'm going to use that term loosely because I do feel like the feelings both Gale and Peeta have are very different. And they call it the same thing, love, but I don't think it is. And apparently he only started liking her 6 months before she went into the games. And only because he felt threatened by another person, like you said, liking her and potentially stealing her. Which is probably exactly how he views Peeta, why he is acting out so much like some sort of petulant child getting stroppy because his toy has been taken, like you've said. Gale says that he loves her. Like I said, yes, he might think he does, but it's not the same, and it's not the love that she deserves, or the love I think that she will over time figure out that she wants.
Yeah, and like he's just so convinced that he is the right choice. He is just so convinced that he is entitled to her. And oh my God, like how I would love to have the confidence of a cis straight white man. Genuinely, to be this like convinced of your own like personality and I guess charisma and virility and everything, just to be so convinced that you are the person she is fated to be with, and if only she would fucking hurry up and realise it.
Well, this is the thing. It depends how you see his behaviour, because sometimes I see his behaviour as almost not having the confidence and, you know, thinking, because I think what you said where he is a lot of time he realises there isn't really a competition between him and Peeta, and we will obviously talk about this in depth in the next episode, where it is Gale versus Peeta. But I think Gale's only acting this way so much because he doesn't have confidence in himself, but he can't admit that to everybody.
So do you think it's a lot of bluster, a lot of like false confidence, a lot of fake it till you make it kind of energy?
Yeah, personally.
Is he been listening to the wrong person on the internet? Do you... Okay, I've thought of a question. Do you think that if Gale didn't behave this way towards Katniss, or even in general, we're going to sort of discuss Gale being just generally not a great person to begin with. But do you think that if he, obviously Katniss sort of realises all that and accepts everything else, but it's the issue that she's got with him now is how he's behaving towards her. Do you think that if he had stepped back and sort of gone, okay, look, I'm going to lay my cards on the table here. I also like you. I understand the situation that you are in. There is no pressure. There is no, I'm not going to force anything on you. I just want you to be aware that Peeta is not the only choice and I'm willing to stand up to the Capitol to have you. Do you think that the outcome would have been different? Do you think that Gale might have stood more of a chance?
The final outcome, no. But I think she would have not so quickly lost, like, you know, that respect for him at the end. I think they could have remained friends.
Yeah, I think that's the outcome that I think if he'd had a bit more like care and consideration, they probably would have stayed in each other's lives more. Because I think part of it now it's that entitlement. It's that I deserve you. He shouldn't have you. That is the problem here. And I think a lot of what pushes Katniss away from Peeta is the idea that the Capitol has basically mandated that she must be with this guy. So if you have the Capitol mandating that she's got to be with Peeta, and then you have Gale who's also being soft and sensitive, instead, they probably would have had a bit of a romance before it fizzled out. I think she still would have ended up with Peeta, but I think Gale might then have had a chance to explore his actual feelings, and Katniss would have had a chance to explore her questionable feelings for Gale, and it still have ended amicably. So, like I say, so far we have like talked about how Gale behaves towards Katniss, but let's talk about just Gale in general, because he's a little ball of anger a lot of the time.
Yeah, we see this passive-aggressive nature and pretty much everything else that Gale does. Like, it's not just reserved for Katniss. So, Katniss remarks that there's many times where she's worried that Gale will start a rebellion himself, and that's just further supported when Katniss accidentally obviously let slip about the uprising in 8, and he says that he just can't leave now.
Yeah, like, it's this rebellion idea that he comes back to over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, like without ever really acting on anything. And I do kind of think he wants to be the figurehead, doesn't he? I think he wants to Gale wants it kind of to be his rebellion, I feel like. Because I mean, there's something with how he then turns around at the end of Catching Fire to me and says, he's the one who tells Katniss that it's District 12 no longer exists. And then he then goes into talking about how he got people out I think this is in the Mockingjay. I'm sure he posits it as like, he got these people out, he managed to do this, he managed to do that, he saved this thing, and obviously like he's saved all of Katniss' family and stuff. But it feels, I think this is where like my idea of him wanting it to be his rebellion comes from, because he wants to be a key player, he wants to be a key part. We kind of see him get more involved in Mockingjay with District 13 and their crazy schedules and their plans and things. But there's just something in me that sort of just goes, him being the one to tell her about District 13, I feel like he wanted to. I feel like he wanted to be the person to tell her. Not that he thought he was the best person, but that he wanted to. I don't know what you think about that. It gives me an ick, and I can't quite put my finger on why.
Obviously, when Katniss is woken up, she doesn't realise where she is, and obviously Gale tells her that they're in District 13, and she obviously goes, oh, Prim and my mum, he's like, they're safe, we managed to get them out. And then there's like a pause, I think, when she mentions about District 12, and she says something along the lines of, oh, he pauses just like he's about to deliver a death blow when we're hunting, or something like that. So she kind of gets the sense that he's about to like say some really bad news, and that's when he's like, Katniss, there is no District 12. I think that's literally when Catching Fire ends. Like that's
the final line of Catching Fire.
It's like the final line.
I guess it's just, the dramatics with which he delivers that. I think of all the people that could have delivered that news, obviously Haymitch and Plutarch are not the right people. Katniss is very, very angry at both of them. Plutarch, she has less of a direct connection with, but she's obviously very, very angry at Haymitch and feels betrayed by Haymitch. But Finnick is also there.
But so is her mum and Prim as well in District 13. Why couldn't they done that?
I think they're still in the hovercraft at the point where he tells her, or like she's being kept segregated from everywhere else. I can't quite like figure out exactly what that scene was. But I feel like that news should have come from them. I feel like he could have just gone, let's see your family first. We'll discuss this later, but I think it's partly that idea of this place no longer exists, but that situation that we were in previous no longer exists either, and Peeta's not here, and therefore, like, it's more of an option for you now. I'm more of an option. Look at me. It feels like, look at me. Look at what I did. Look at who I saved.
Pick me boy again.
Yeah, it's like
Gale the pick me boy.
So like I know we're not like talking about at this point how he's acting towards Katniss in terms of their relationship, but how he's acting about his actions that should not have been fueled by his love for her, that should have been about him being a decent guy. He is now using them to kind of like up his case with her. And I think you mentioned this previously as well, because I have one last question before we get into a verdict. You mentioned it earlier how obviously like the issues across like, should he have gone into the arena? What would have happened if like Katniss came home on her own? Am I being too harsh here? Probably is the answer, to be completely honest. Or do you think some part of Gale would have preferred Katniss to have died in her first arena than to have come out of it with these consequences? So that's every consequence. That's having the fake romance and all the chaos that puts them through personally, having had the extra pressure that has come down on the district and the other districts, and the rebellion plan. I know, he gets like his beloved little rebellion because of Katniss's actions, but then arguably he's so, what's the word? He is so down on how she survived because Peeta got involved, that even though it got him his rebellion that he's been amping up for years, he can't recognise that as being a positive thing to have sparked the rebellion in the first place. Like, it feels so twisted up inside his head where, well, you've got what you wanted, you've got your rebellion, which has to surely be the most important thing, right? Because regardless about whether you get the girl or not, the conditions of the lives of the people that you love will have to change, and you have to overthrow the Capital's rebellion, even if you risk them in the process. But you got that by Katniss winning with Peeta. But then you're so harsh on Katniss having won with Peeta in the first place. Like,
I think that Gale is just really conflicted a lot of the time, and I don't know if he would have preferred it. I think it just would have been a different life that he would be living. I think it is very hard to kind of think of it that way. I think he would always, if it was Gale, say that, you know, he would want Katniss to be alive. He would want Katniss to be alive in any way. But I think he in himself is conflicted. And it's a very hard question to ask.
Okay, I will rephrase as well, and sort of posit a similar question on a similar line, but slightly different. If Katniss had died in the arena, if no tributes came home from 12, what do you think Gale would be telling the rest of the district? Would Katniss be the one that got away from the Capital reaping her volunteering, anything? Would Gale idolize her as his first love and use that as a fuel for the rebellion? Or do we think he would say that she was his best friend and move on?
Oh, I think he would probably say, you know, she was my best friend. I had feelings for her. She was my best friend, but she's dead now, and he would move on.
Yeah. So I guess then in that case, you're kind of putting his stronger feelings. I use stronger feelings in air quotes, by the way. If you're on video, you can see that. Do you think his stronger feelings occurred because of Peeta then, and not because he ever had anything before her? I guess, are we dating his, no matter what his feelings for Katniss are we dating them from when Peeta got into the picture versus from the reaping itself? From the, she's being taken away, I need to figure this out.
Yeah. I think Gale had a crush leading up to the reaping, as you do at school sometimes. And I think after the reaping and then everything with Peeta, it became more serious feelings because of the whole situation of her being taken away by another person. I think that's when to him it became serious. But that might not be what it is. We know we're going to discuss that more in the next episode. So I'm trying to not branch into that too much. But at the end of the day, Rachel, after that very long and heated Gale discussion, we need to come to a verdict. We need to answer on a scale, obviously 0 being not 100 being very much so. Where does Gale land on this red flag meter?
I want to say, based on our full conversation that we have had, I do give him a bit of grace. I give him a bit of grace for him being in a tough situation and him being 18 and maybe not having had a decent role model to be like, dude, knock it off. That is not how you behave with a girl. I think if his dad was around, he'd have been clutching around the ears and been like, dude, come on, what are you doing? What are you playing at? I'm kind of going to put him about 80% asshole. Is 80 too low? I don't know. Is 80 too low?
I was going to do like 75.
Okay, maybe it's not too low. Maybe it's not too low.
That was my gut feelings. Yes, he is, but I'm giving him some grace with his dad, with the mines, with the stress, with the family, with the kids. So I'm putting him about 75. But I would be interested to see what everybody else's opinions are, because I feel like this is going to be quite subjective in the sense that I know we will have quite a few Gale lovers who probably listen, and they'll probably have a whole different opinion on this.
Yeah. And so to us, I guess Gale is kind of like just a walking red flag in general. He has like, does he have any green flags, I guess? Are there any? I mean, him looking after his family is probably a green flag.
That's a green flag.
Him looking after them from such a young age. But I think everything else might be a red flag. So with that being said, Katie, if you could instantly give one character in the Hunger Games that isn't Gale,
okay,
a red flag awareness course, who would it be?
Head Peacekeeper Thread.
Do you think?
He needs a serious going over in therapy. Like, I think that's evident. What about you? Who would you pick?
I immediately picked Coin, probably because Thread, I don't see Thread as having actually any redeeming qualities at all. The guy gets off on inflicting violence.
So you don't think he could be kind of like rehabilitated?
No, I think Thread is most likely to be like a rejected career. From one of the career districts who liked inflicting pain, liked the power of it all, wasn't quite good enough to actually go into the games, and can serve the capital in another way by inflicting pain on other people, because he does like to kill. Let's face it, he does. He's a little bit trigger happy. I think Coin, personally, and we're obviously going to get into Coin later in the Mockingjay section after our lovely little mid-season break, because these episodes take forever to make.
They do, they really do.
But just like tease that a little bit, I guess. I do feel like Coin goes about things the wrong way, but in her own twisted little... in her own twisted little way, I do think she has the right intention to some extent. I think she goes too far. I think her methods that she uses are too much, but I think she's probably the one person who could have been pulled back with earlier intervention. But obviously, because of her being District 13 and being like a complete, separate, isolated anomaly in terms of like communication with other people, there was no one to check her when she was going down the wrong path.
Yeah, I think we'll save a lot of that for the Coin episode in Mockingjay, because we obviously will be going down that path and analysing that path. So
we will.
Thanks so much, guys, for sticking around to the end of episode 10.
How have we made 10 episodes so far?
Really wild, isn't it? It's crazy.
That is madness.
I know. And the fact that obviously we've got one more core episode next week, which is going to be Rachel.
Yes, so we next week are discussing Katniss again, and this time we are discussing, is she the asshole for stringing two guys along while she makes a decision?
It's going to be a spicy one.
Yeah, we're going
to be a spicy one.
We're going to take some of what we've said here a little bit further and really explore the Katniss debate with Peeta versus Gale and what choice she makes.
Well, we look forward to having you guys again next time, and until then, have a great week, guys. Read more Hunger Games, read more books.
Read more books, yeah.
Read more books.
I'm going to hopefully find some time to read more books this week.
Same.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to our podcast, and don't forget to let us know your thoughts on all of our potential assholes.
No matter what platform you're listening to us on, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, upvote and all that stuff.
If you like what we do and want to find out more, all of our platforms are listed in the description or show notes. We're a two-person team, so any support or feedback is always greatly received.
Tune in next time to Once Upon a Red Flag. So, where has Gale got this behaviour from?
Toxic masculinity.
It's everywhere. Even in Panem, you cannot escape the toxic masculinity.